Good morning, everybody. It's another Friday. I hope you had a wonderful and amazing Thanksgiving. It's a day after, so sometimes you're probably in a turkey coma, but if you're like me, but otherwise, I hope you had a great day full of memories. And we're here for another episode of the Business Unscripted podcast. And I'm alone today. Dwarren is off. He's got a storm rolling through, so his internet isn't stable. But we're here. We still wanted to bring you an episode today, and today's a good one, I think. And I hope we'll see. You're going to know more about this from me because obviously, the conversation goes unscripted. We'll see how that goes. But so if you're a business owner and you are aspiring to be, grow, or maybe you're thinking about just getting into business and you're looking for, some advice or want to learn from lessons from business owners who've gone through it before, you're in the right spot. And so take a listen. Feel free to share it. Hopefully there's one or two tidbits that you pick out of today's episode that will, impact you and your business. But so grab your favorite cup of Joe. I already have my cup of Joe. So today we got water, but grab your favorite cup of Joe and let's jump into the show. So today we are joined by Katie, and Katie is in the funding industry. And there's been, a little bit of back and forth that we have had related to different funding options that are available to business owners and whether or not they're good or beneficial, as well as, obviously on this podcast, some of the things that we talk about in terms of, cash management and profit first, and, putting systems in your business in place. And the benefits to your business of doing that, she's been an opponent of. And so I invited her here to join us on the show to really talk through kind of her viewpoints, what she thinks is the correct way, right, for you to possibly set up your business to be funding approved, and whether or not funding approved is the best way to be. So with that said, let's go ahead and welcome Katie to the show. Katie, how are you?
Good. And yourself?
I am doing fantastic. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. So
right on.
Welcome. Go ahead. And Katie, what we'd like to do is when we bring everybody on, give a little background of who you are and the business service that you provide. And then we can kind of jump into some of the nitty gritty and the fun stuff that we wanted to have a conversation about.
Right on. So Katie Sprinkle. I've been in business with business funding for 6 years. I've been in business with consulting for operations and strategic strategies for roughly 8 years. I've had several businesses of my own. I have failed and failed better. That's
we all have.
Right? Fail and fail better, right? So
most owners have.
Yeah. Graduated high school, went to my first business as a contractor, did drywall and roofing. And ended up getting hurt. So we ended up going back to school and getting things a little more organized.
Nice. And so what type of consulting, like you said, you've been in consulting for about 8 years. What type of consulting have you been? So for those that are listening that may not understand what that means, what does that mean?
So a lot of the root to a lot of people's problems in business is their operations are not on point. So all of the things that they do from day to day, people don't have standard procedures that everybody has to follow. A lot of business owners just starting out or even 2 or 3 years in kind of forgot that part. They had this wonderful idea. They want to make it work. It's their baby. They love it. Great. But a lot of times the operations aren't on point. They don't have the standardality to it.
Okay.
So my job is I go and check all that.
And so how give a 30-second overview. How do you check that for business owners that you talk to?
Well, at this point, I have a edge assessment that goes through 10 different dynamics of business. Each question in those 10 different dynamics give me an idea of where they actually fall within those dynamics, leadership, financial, that kind of stuff. And then Once they have those questions answered, I get all the answers. I can go through and set up a report as to where their business really is and what operations we need to shore up. And then we go from there. If they want to become clients, great. If they don't, that's all right too. They at least have a report with some actual items they can work with.
And so what have you found as being the number one thing that typically people are missing in their business?
The number one thing is ownership burnout. They don't have procedures in there for taking care of themselves.
Yeah, and burnout because they're working too much. They're underpaid. Oh, yeah. What have you seen?
Burnout because a lot of business owners believe that if it's going to get done right, they need to be the ones to do it. So they're not very good at delegating.
So then part of your experience has been coming in and helping them develop the systems to delegate?
Develop the systems that work right to delegate to their people. You know, and when I say work right, I don't mean like my systems. I mean like what works for them.
Right. No, absolutely. All right, so let's jump into it. So obviously, you know, you're in the funding space, right? Mm-hmm. And I think correct me if I'm wrong, but so our sort of back and forth started. I think I posted something about profit first, right? And having a cash management system in your business and how important it is to have good habits around cash in your business. Mm-hmm. And if I remember correctly, you kind of came back and kind of said how that is horrible or a wrong way for a business owner to set up their business in order to be approved for alternative funding.
Well, that's the basic gist. I don't think I used the word horrible. I think I used.
Yeah, I think it was something different, but it was along those lines.
Yeah, basic gist thereof. So the reason, because I have done some looking into profit first. I mean, let's just be real. I researched before I open my mouth. Okay. The reason though is all of the different buckets that profit first has you put in moving money to. Any lender, bank, alternative, I don't care who it is, looks at that as high risk. If you're moving money,
so that's the first thing that I'm going to disagree with you on. I obviously do a lot of networking, and I have a lot of bankers, a lot of lenders that are in my business, in my networks that I've had conversations with, and not one have told me that they have turned down somebody because they're following the profit first system because they have too many bank accounts. In fact, I've worked for organizations that have had 10, 15 different bank accounts.
So do you work with underwriters?
It doesn't matter about underwriters.
Well, yes,
I'm talking to business owners. I'm talking to bankers. I'm talking to loan writers. So nobody has once said that because, oh my God, you have 7 accounts, we're going to decline you.
Well,
because anybody who understands business understands that it's not the number of accounts.
I didn't say it was high. I didn't say it was a decline. I didn't say it was an auto decline.
Or even high risk.
But
even high risk.
But it is high risk. And the reason it's high risk.
And why?
Well, the reason it's high risk is because lenders, the underwriters specifically, are looking at the operating account. So if you're making into your account every day, say 5,000, that's your daily balance every day, but you're moving parts of that into different places, they're seeing that as so many transactions that your account cannot handle or can barely handle getting a loan or an alternative funding.
Good.
Well, no, not good.
For alternative funding, yes, absolutely good, right? Because think about this. So here's why I don't think that you fully understand how Profit First works, right? Money comes into your income account. If you make $5,000 a day, you have your income account. That's going to show $5,000 a day coming in, right? The money then is going to get split between operating, which is what's left to spend and actually manage your business. So if you're overspending your operating account, you probably, have to cut somewhere, not get a loan to keep funding, right? The second one is profit. right? It's your actual profit savings. It's cash reserves to be set up in your business. Nothing wrong with that. The
Not at
third
all.
is owner's pay, right? So you have to make sure that you're getting paid as an owner. And it's not necessarily all your money. It could be some of the profit distributions of the business go into that account, et cetera. But it's whatever set aside from operations for you as the owner. And then number four is tax. So no matter what comes in, you have to pay the tax man, right?
Well,
So
definitely.
the main basis definitions of what comes into an account is not extravagant. That's going, like, any person who understands business should understand that. And if you're not taking that into account, you're actually doing it to the detriment of the business owner. Because if you want to look at an owner and say, okay, you got $5,000 coming in, I'm going to give you this factoring loan or whatever, and we can get into the actual
we'll get into the
breakdown of that. But like, and not take into account that, like, hey, well, you have some tax money that you're going to have to do, right? You have no reserves set up in your business. That's more high risk than having a company that has tax reserves set up in different accounts or profit reserves. That's not high risk because they have money set aside for when things slow down or when things may happen.
So
a business that doesn't have any of that is more high risk than if they're separating it in different accounts to save up for things that they know are going to happen.
The other part of this is it's not GAAP compliant. That's my other issue.
What GAAP compliant? I'm an accountant. What are you talking about?
So
what are you talking about?
Generally accepted accounting principles.
Yep. Did it for 30 years.
Compliant.
Maybe not 30 years.
I mean, it says so specifically in Mike's book.
In whose book?
Mike, the guy that founded the system.
Right. This isn't an accounting. It's not an accounting method.
No, but
this is cash management.
But what they have to do is they got to go back through and make everything GAAP compliant to do their taxes in the first place.
Okay. For one, profit first is a money management habit. It is not accounting.
Right.
Let's just break that apart. Okay. So when a transfer goes in, right, that's not any sort of accounting, right? Your accountant, your bookkeeper would then go and say, okay, that's a transfer from one account to another. They record it. That's GAAP. I don't understand. What do you mean it's not GAAP compliant? Mike specifically says in the book that it's not accounting. And it's true. It's not.
Right.
Profit first is not an accounting system. Nobody has ever said it's an accounting system. It's a cash management system. It's a habit system. Right. Because you're saying that it's something that it's not. It's not accounting.
I just said it's not GAAP compliant.
No.
It
is GAAP compliant. You can transfer between accounts and it's GAAP. If your accountant is recording it correctly. Like, you can't. That's like saying apples and oranges or let's say that's like saying apples and a cucumber are not the same thing. You want to eat an apple, you say, well, you're not eating your vegetables. Well, shit, I'm not. I'm eating a fruit.
What I'm saying to you is that you're making the assumption that every business owner has an accountant or a bookkeeper. That not every business owner does. Some of them do it on their own.
So again, that doesn't make any sense, right?
Well, how does that not make
just
sense?
because you follow profit first doesn't make you GAAP compliant or not. Like, it's two separate things. Because even if you just had a business account, not even following profit first, okay, and you transferred money out of your account, you're not GAAP compliant because you are not transferring it. So that has nothing to do with the conversation. So let's get away from that, because it's nothing. Nobody's ever said that profit first is an accounting system, which is what GAAP is, right? GAAP is actually accounting system. Right?
Actually, there are some people that are certified that have said that yes, it is an accounting system.
Where? Because it's not.
So if you look at the 57-page report that I did,
I went through I did page by page.
Okay, so you saw the
video
citations.
Page by page.
You saw the citations.
I didn't see any citations in that, which is why I was pointing out in the video.
There are citations. They're all in italics. So the 57-page, not the 16.
Which 57 page?
It's in my profile on LinkedIn under publications.
Okay.
And that particular document has all of the citations from financial advisors, from bankers, and from people who have dealt with businesses who've gotten completely screwed up on profit first because they were told that it's an accounting system, which I am glad that you're not saying that.
Nobody that is certified in the profit first system would say that it is an accounting system.
So Dave, you got to admit there's bad actors in every industry. Come on, man.
Okay, so then so there's bad actors. Okay.
Let's
agree on that. There's bad actors in every industry. Okay. So what you're trying to say is because there's a bad actor who said that it's an accounting system, you want to destroy the entire system?
No, I'm saying the entire system looks bad. Bad on lending.
So does good, because people who are a strong, right, cash strong company, they're going to have savings set up. That's green flags. Those aren't red flags, right?
But,
so any legitimate, right, loan underwriter is going to be able to look at a business as a whole, look at a balance sheet, look at a profit and loss statement. It's not going to matter if they have 10 or 2 accounts.
You're looking at traditional bank loans.
You're right, because when a company's strong, they should be able to apply for a bank loan,
and they should. Right? I mean, if
only 20% of businesses don't qualify typically.
No, that's wrong. That's a wrong one. 20% of businesses qualify for a bank loan.
No. That's not true. That's not true at all.
Oh, that is totally true. That is totally true.
At all.
Dave, you couldn't walk in and get a bank loan today. There's a reason.
Go ahead. Tell me what that is.
Okay. Do you own your home or do you rent?
I don't do any. I just sold my home.
Okay. So are you going back to renting or are you owning?
I live with my fiance. She has her own house.
Okay. So you don't own the house. Therefore, you can't get a bank loan because you work from home.
I have a business address. I can get the loan.
I understand
that. Talk to people about possibly getting a loan.
But you don't own it.
It doesn't matter. You don't have to have ownership. It's on financials. I get I've talked to business owners that trust me. It's not 20% of people qualify. That's for
20%. Sure. It is 20%. That is the standard.
Where's that statement or where's that data?
So that would be in the National Federal Census.
Because I gave you the data of where in the video I gave. I gave the data where
I understand
80% of people typically apply and are approved.
My number is from the National Federal Census of January this year.
Do you have the link?
20% that qualify of small to mid-sized businesses.
Do you have the link?
So out of 33.6, I do not have it right on hand. It's not in my sticky notes. But as of 2025, January 2025, 20% of small to mid-sized businesses qualify. And the reason is this year, the loan structure through banks got super strong. In other words, they're wanting almost perfect FICOs. They're wanting.
That's in anything though. That's not just business. So let's go there. Like everywhere is
FICOs. They're wanting everybody to own their building that they're in, whether it's at home or a brick and mortar. Anything that is based in the internet is it's not bankable. They're wanting for you to have 2 to 3 times the collateral of the actual loan you want. They want 2 to 3 times the collateral, Dave.
Right. And so what I'm telling you, what I'm saying is that a business shouldn't just go right for a BCA or MCA. It's not smart in 80% or 90% of situations.
You're still using somebody else's money to make money. So how is that not smart?
You're not using anybody. Okay. Let's take a step back here for a second and let's explain how a BCA MCA works. So go ahead. You're in the industry. Tell us how a BCA MCA works.
So an MCA is a merchant cash advance. That is solely based on your credit card advance, your credit card processing, period. That's what an MCA is based on.
Right.
Okay. A business capital advance is based on all your revenue coming in. Okay. So there's the first distinction. Second distinction, an MCA, most of those people doing that, and I say most of them because we just admitted there's bad actors in every industry, right? So most of those people are only looking at credit cards and they're not looking at the health of the business. They're not looking at what their daily balance is total and whether or not they can afford to pay it back. They're going to take your credit card processing and they're going to do it at the same rate every day for the life of it. A BCA, on the other hand, is not like that. We're looking at the health of the business. We're looking at daily balance. We're looking at, can you operate on 80% of your daily balance? Because we don't go any higher than 20%.
So let me ask you this. So if you can operate on 80% of your balance, why would you need your loan? If you have 20% free every time,
let's look at it from the standpoint of the season. Okay. If you had the opportunity to buy $30,000 worth of inventory that you know you can turn into $100,000 worth of sales, but it's time sensitive, you have to do it in the next week. Don't have the money on hand. Okay. You don't have the time to wait for a bank loan. We're between 3 to 6 months to get approved, period. So your next best option is
you're breaking up really bad right
in the
now,
alternative.
Katie,
is the next best option.
You're breaking up really bad.
There we go.
So
yeah,
I think we might have lost her for a second.
How is it now?
Still bad. Still bad.
How about now?
A little bit better.
Okay. I'm back to
so MCA, just to kind of recap really quick. So an MCA is based on your credit card processing, right? And BCA is based on your total revenue.
And only credit processing.
Got it. How do you repay it?
Yep.
Right.
Cash, credit card. So repayment can either be daily or weekly. Okay. And it's sometimes weekly. All right. Your daily payment is never going to be more than 20% of your revenue coming in, of your daily balance, period. A couple of things I did so that I can give you real numbers. Okay. There is, say you get a $50,000 offer at a 1.5 factor. Okay.
So that's you're paying back $75,000 just by.
Yep.
Right. So you're paying $25,000 of interest. Yes. So don't just say.
Cost of funds.
What's that?
That's the cost of funds. Okay.
It's interest. It's interest. No, you call it whatever you want. It's interest.
So let me get through this. So $25,000 cost of funds, because that's the industry.
Interest. 25,000.
Industry versus cost of funds.
Right, but I'm letting business owners who are watching this is that yes, they're going to tell you it's called cost of funds, but it's actually interest. So
you're going to go over 18 months. If you're doing daily payments, that's 396 payments because there are 22 payment days in a month. So you got offered the 50 because your lowest month was 200,000. Okay. That puts you at $6,667 daily balance, roughly. Your payment per day is going to be $189.40, which is 2.84% of your daily balance.
That doesn't matter, right?
But it does matter.
It doesn't matter how much you're taking out of their daily balance, right? It matters what are you actually paying back. Okay. So if somebody takes $50,000, right. So you're going to give somebody $50,000 and they have to pay you back $75,000.
Yep.
Right. And what's the typical loan term on those? 6 months?
Typical loan term is about 12 months, actually, which I've got one at 12 months if you'd like to hear that one.
Okay. So let's just say 12 months. Let's just assume it's 12 months. But because if you're paying back daily, right, and your money goes up higher in one day or whatever, they're going to take more, right? It's not a set payment. That's the thing.
It's a set payment. It's a set payment, Dave. That's the problem. You're assuming it's a fluctuating payment because you're looking at it as an MCA.
Okay.
MCAs fluctuate. You're right. A business capital advance, it is a set payment every day for the 22 payment days a month. Okay. Because we don't take it out on weekends. So for the 22 payment days a month, it is a set payment. Now, if it gets down to it's a slow quarter. And you know it's going to be a slow quarter because you've done your projections, you know exactly what you're going to be looking at. You call your provider. Hey, it's going to be a slow quarter. They're going to ask you, hey, can we see your bank statement again? Yeah, cool. You send them your bank statement, they readjust your payment, man. Because honestly, they don't want to get screwed either.
Right. So they're going to adjust your payment, charge you more interest, right? And so your payment's longer. Yeah.
No.
So
no. Dave,
what do you mean no? Any loan company that's going to extend a term.
It's a straight payback. Okay. You pay back.
So you pay back 75. Got it. Okay. So it's typically 12 months, but let's say you extend it. Okay. Or let me ask you this question for BCAs. If you pay it off early, what happens? You still got to pay back the 75, right?
You still have to pay back the whole 75 unless
what?
You have one of the wonderful ones where you have 90 days to pay it back at your 50.
Which most people can't. But
so
you're saying sometimes there is an option that you can pay back in 90 days.
Yeah.
So no matter what. So if you go to 91 days, you're paying back $75,000 no matter what. So if you pay $75,000 in 90 days, like that's like what would that be? A crazy amount of APR. Let's just say you go on the average.
Comes out to 18.5 average. Comes out to 18.5% average if you annualize it.
How? Because if you take a year, you just told me a year, right? Average is a year that somebody takes 50 and pays back 75. That is a 50% APR on average. 50%.
That's 50% payback of the funding. Yes. That's not interest. That's not interest.
This is what the industry wants. It's still interest. Any money that you pay above what you got taken as a loan is called interest, no matter what you call it.
Interest compounds, Dave. Ours doesn't.
Right. So this is even worse, right? Because typically an interest on a loan would be better because if you pay it off early, you save yourself interest. This, you're actually just saying, you know what, you're paying me $25,000 no matter if you pay it on day 91. That's like a loan shark.
Now, if you pay it off, if you don't pay it off on day 91, but you pay it off on day 120,
you're still paying 75.
But you get a 20 to 25% discount on that.
I just asked you what would happen if they paid it off early. You said they're still paying back 75.
No, I told you there's the 90-day core rate. That's what it's called, is core rate. And I told you put it in that they were still going to pay the 75.
I asked you. You said yes. We can go back.
You jumped it, and you put it in that they were still going to pay 75. If they live out the life of the term for the 12 months, you're absolutely right. They're still going to pay the 75. If they pay it off early, depending on how early they pay it off, 20 to 25% is what they're going to get discounted on.
So let's say, on average, let's say somebody pays it off in 4 months. What are they paying back? If they get 50. What are they paying back if they pay it back in 4 months?
Well, that would depend on the discount from the lender. And I'm
What's
not
the average? What's average?
Well, the average is about 22%, I think.
22% discount on the 25,000?
22% discount on the 25,000. Yes.
Okay, so they're going to pay 68%. No, 78%. So they're still going to pay back $19,500. So over 4 months, right, which is 19,400 divided by 50,000 is 39%.
Okay.
Which if you annualize that, that's 156% APR.
If you annualize that, it actually gets lower.
Doesn't get lower. That's not how interest rates work. It does not get lower.
Looking at an interest rate, it's not an interest rate. It's a straight payback.
It doesn't matter. I'm talking about it because what business owners actually understand, right, is it's actually interest on the money. It's interest on the money. It doesn't matter how you spin it. Money that you have to pay on top of the money that you get on loan is interest no matter what.
And you're looking at
you want to call it cost of funding. You want to call it cost of funding. is interest. You
The
just want to
cost
make
of
the assumption that because it doesn't compound, it's not interest?
Well, no. What I'm saying to you is the problem is that there are so many business owners that don't understand this. And what you're
Right, it's
doing,
worse.
no, because a bank loan honestly can be worse for somebody.
No.
Oh, yes.
A bank loan is way more beneficial to a business owner than any sort of BCA, MCA could ever be. I
No.
can guarantee that.
No.
What do you mean no?
For the people, the 20%, for the 20% of the business owners and small to mid-sized
Okay, let's just get rid of the percentages because we can agree to disagree on that.
Okay, fair enough.
I guarantee it's not 20%, but go ahead.
I can guarantee it is, but that's beside the point. So here's the deal. For the business owners that can take a bank loan, that can afford it, do own their building, have collateral, here's where things start to get hairy, because a bank loan is a fixed payment every month.
That you can refinance, but go ahead.
You can refinance. You can only refinance after 1 to 2 years, depending on your lender. So if you have a slow quarter and you still have a fixed payment of $1,000 a month, which is one of the lowest payments I've run into. But you have a fixed payment of $1,000 a month.
Depends on what you get, but sure.
If you have a fixed payment of $1,000 a month, but you have a daily balance of $500, you're operating on 65 to 80% of said 500. Okay.
Why do you keep going back to this average daily balance? Like that doesn't matter. Like
Because
your payment to the loan is once a month for $1,000 versus I have to pay back a BCA every day. Like that doesn't make any sense.
Do you only operate on your monthly balance, or do you look at what you have coming in daily? What do you do?
I operate because I know what's coming in and out, and I know what's set for
Daily,
operating
right?
because no, not daily.
So
my expenses come out once a month, like depending on how they're set up. So like I look at my account in my operating account, and I have what's going into my operating account covers all my operating expenses.
How do you determine what the percentage is for that operating account? If you're not looking at things,
because I've looked at the history. I looked at the history.
Weekly. How do you know how much to put in?
What do you mean? How much do I know how to put in? Because it's built up enough where based on the percentages that I've allocated in there that I set up for myself based on historical review of all my expenses.
How do you get to those percentages? Because your historical review should fluctuate. So are you taking the average of monthly?
I take a yearly view.
Okay. So it's an average
take a
of
yearly view and then you allocate it into your percentages as you need, right? Based on your actual situation.
Your percentage is based on an average of your yearly monthly expenses is what I'm getting to, right?
Sure. It's off of my known expenses, right?
Okay.
So how I initially set my percentages, how you initially start with profit first, is you would look at what have you been doing for the last year? Most people that we find out are not paying themselves, not setting aside tax money, and not setting aside any profit reserves. All the money is pretty much going to operations, right? And if it's not, it's probably going to owner's pay. And typically, so if their operating's too high because they're spending money where they shouldn't, what we set, and let's say it's 75%. Well, then the first quarter, we maybe drop it down to 72% and we look at their expenses. We do some trending. We look at their pricing. Maybe they're underpricing themselves. There's a lot of things that Profit First helps you to identify to improve in your business. Okay. So it's not a daily number, right? But it's not a daily number, right?
But that's how lenders look at it, is through a daily lens. So
no, I've never had to provide a day-by-day breakdown for any of my clients to their lender. That
you do, but you don't realize it. Yes, you do. Because any bank that's looking at is looking at their statements as well.
Oh yeah, but the statement doesn't give you the day-by-day breakdown.
But yes, it does. The bank statement from their account actually does give a day.
Not the day-by-day. It gives you an average sometimes when it changes.
It gives you an average at the top of the sheet. You're absolutely right. However, your spending on that statement is broke down by every single transaction that you do, day by day.
Right.
So that's what they're looking at. They're taking all of those days and looking what your daily balance is. So you do provide it, you just don't realize it.
Okay, but again, we got to this point because you said a bank loan is worse than BCAs or MCAs.
Because the payment doesn't change, Dave. If
You're
you
right.
refi it,
It's once a month.
right. And
BCAs are every day, as you just said.
If you refi it once a month, okay, your once a month payment, if you refi that, the bank can go up or down, right?
Of course, that's how things work. Interest rates go up, interest rates go down.
If you call your provider for a BCA, they're going to take a look at your statements again. They're going to want to see your last month's statement, okay? They're going to want to see where this did. And then that is what they base the new payment on. And
they'll give you another loan and charge you more money, right?
Oh, no. See, that's where you're wrong. You have
I've seen it happen. Come on.
No, you've said that these.
I've seen it happen to clients. Like they call, they need an adjustment. They go, oh well, you're 50% paid off, so here we'll just give you another one, not realizing that
But
and I just saved a client from doing this because it would have cost them $20,000. So come on, don't say it doesn't happen. It happens.
It's an offer for what's called a renewal, and they don't have to take it, Dave. They don't have to.
Because if they talked to somebody that actually was outside of the industry, they wouldn't, because they realized how much impact it has on their business.
Do you have any idea how many times I've told people not to take a renewal?
I'm not saying not you. We already agreed that there's bad actors, right? So we already agreed there's bad actors.
A responsible broker tells them, hey, this isn't the right fit right now, man. And that's where the broker's job comes in.
Right.
All right. My job, you and I've had this conversation back in April of last year. You and I've talked about this. You had an offer. You had an offer. You didn't like it. I told you not to take it.
Sure. We did. After I already said I don't want to take it. I wasn't interested in it because I understood the numbers. Yeah.
And I told you didn't like it. Cool. Okay. One of the bad actors in the industry, which are not that many anymore because of regulations, but there are still some. A bad actor in the industry would have pressured you. I said, cool.
Right. Sure, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. Some bad actors would have probably pressured. Right. Exactly. I'll give you that. However, right, there's few and far between situations where BCA makes sense. One of the examples that you gave earlier, it makes sense sometimes because you have an ROI associated with the option. However, the vast majority of situations when people are considering when they're considering the issue of a BCA MCA, it's because they're short on cash because they got to cover payroll. They got to cover other expenses that are already occurred. There's no ROI associated with it. And they do not realize that the detriment to their business that it has by taking one of these. So yes, you may take out a $50,000 loan, but you're taking out $75,000 from your future cash flow. Like you're actually reducing your cash flow.
Any responsible broker would not suggest a BCA for that. Any responsible broker would say, hey, let's look at a line of credit because that's going to do you better.
How is that going to do any better?
Because if they're in a situation where they've got to bridge a gap, okay, such as payroll, which I have some contractors that use the line of credit just for that. They have a situation where they need to bridge that gap. A line of credit is going to be better on that because like a couple of contractors that I have, all right, they use that line of credit right before punch out. So they pay their guys. Okay. And then when punch out happens, they pay it back without interest.
Well, a lot of credits are still going to
They only pay back the principal they took. Well, only if you hit the credit moment where that interest kicks.
And what's the typical in your industry? Like, what's the different line of credit interest that you guys typically would charge?
So, line of credit interest is either 0 to 3%, depending on where you fall within the matrix of the lender. Okay, straight up. I don't have those exact matrix numbers. I'm going to be real.
Gotcha.
But I have contractors that will use that line of credit on a Friday, pay their guys. Okay. Their interest doesn't come due until the following Friday, but punch out is Wednesday. So they pay back before the interest comes due on the advance or on the draw from the line of credit.
When you say punch out means what?
Punch out is their final payment. I'm sorry. I used to be a contractor. I forget sometimes that not everybody knows that.
So sometimes punch out's when you get the money from
punch out is final payment. Yeah, that's when the job is done. The client pays the contractor the rest of the money. Okay.
But in business, typically that doesn't happen. Typically, there's a lot of terms. There's a lot of, so what happens in most scenarios is that, yes, you should hope that the job is done and you get paid. But more often than not, there's a delay, right? Maybe the money doesn't hit the account, are not able to pay it back. And then, essentially now, we went past Friday. Now you're paying the interest. You know what I mean? So it's
now you're making a weekly payment and you're making the payment on the money walking.
Okay, so and it's a weekly interest of 3%. Is that true? Like, let's just say it's worst case scenario. Your weekly interest is 3% on the outstanding principal.
Now listen.
Mm-hmm. So if you paid 3% a week, right, compounding, like because you weren't able to pay back, and like maybe you had to pay, and you only paid it down slightly, like that's a crazy amount of interest. So that's not a typical. So just so if you're a business owner and you're considering lines of credits, right? This type of line of credit is. Hold on. This type of line of credit is completely different than a typical funding bank line of credit, right? A bank line of credit, you're going to charge your interest monthly, okay? Not weekly. There's a big difference. I've never seen a line of credit at 26.5%, but go ahead. So if you charge 3% in a week and you compound that turns into anywhere between 150 to 200% APR.
Okay, so money walking. Let me explain that
principle.
term.
That's principle.
Money walking
principal outstanding.
Principal outstanding. Money walking is anything that's outstanding. So if they did make a payment and paid it down, that 3% is not on the original draw.
I get it. No, I get it. But that 3% is still going to compound.
Now, in the scenario that we were working with, you're saying that there was a delay in the money hitting the bank. Okay, cool. So pay it off when the money does hit the bank before the next interest cycle.
But that by then they've had other payrolls that they now have to do. You got to understand, like a lot of times it doesn't. Like you're talking in like a vacuum that it'd be great to just pay it off.
No, go back to your buckets. Let's go back to your buckets. So put a bucket aside. You've got this payment coming up. Put the bucket aside.
You're right. That's why Profit First works, because
one of the first
things that we adjust to people. This is why one thing that if people have payroll set up, the first thing we set aside is a payroll account. And we figure out how much of your gross money should be set aside for payroll and taxes that are related to that. And so every dollar that comes in, we set aside 67%, right? For some businesses, or 30%. And we put it there and they don't have to worry about it because the money that comes in is already there. And we build up a balance so that it already covers.
Can you agree, though? Back to Profit First, since we were there again. Can you agree that it's not right for every business? That there are some businesses it's just not a right system for it.
Just like any system, you're right.
Okay, cool. I can also
agree any business
it's not right for every business.
I would defend that 90% of businesses Profit First should be used for, including
I understand that you're passionate about it. I get it.
It's not passionate. I'm just it's an actual, like, it's a habit, right? 82% of businesses fail because of poor cash management. That's a fact.
Where'd you get that number?
Where did I get that number? Well, I'll be honest with you. I got that from Alex Ramosi when he was doing his book launch. And I'm going to assume that he did his research. But 82% of businesses fail because of poor cash management. In that same presentation, we can look up the actual data around this. It's there. 52% of business owners are either break even or losing money year over year. So poor cash management is the result of more businesses failure, 80% of businesses failure, than not having a system in place to manage their cash. Right?
Likewise.
Because here's the thing. 100% of businesses are going to have some sort of tax due, unless they lose money, right? More often than not, they're going to have tax due, whether it's sales tax, whether it's income tax, you're going to have tax due. And the tax man doesn't care whether the money is in the account or not. So if you're not setting it aside and you're taking too much out for yourself or whatever it is, you're investing in bigger, equipment. So you buy equipment, but you're not able to write that off this year. So you still have to pay tax on it. Whatever it is, the tax man's going to come. And so if you don't have that money set aside, same thing with payroll. Payroll comes every 2 weeks, every week, depending on how you pay your employees. And if you're not setting that money aside because you're just hoping that it's going to be there next week, and you didn't set it aside into the payroll account and it's sitting in an operating account, and now an expense come in this week that you want to pay, but really you don't have the money for it and you pay it anyways, well, now you just shorted yourself for payroll because you don't understand what should be set aside for payroll. It is a money management habit system. It is not an accounting system. It is not a save all system. It is a where are you at now and how do you grow to be where you should be? And the idea is when you're working with somebody who is a profit first professional, who is also understands how to run your business, you look at other things than just cash. You look at your expense spending. You look at where can you cut? Where can you be more efficient? You look at your sales and your pricing to see where else are you pricing yourself right? Are you underpricing yourself? Is your margin right? So profit first is not a end all be all system. Profit first is an identification management system for your cash. And when your operating account is too tight, well, hey, why is that? Did something happen? Did an expense come up that you didn't clear? Did you agree to an expense that you shouldn't have because it's not in line with where you need to be?
So contractors, let's go with contractors because I know that business very well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go with contractors. A contractor buys materials based on their different bids. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Glad we can agree there. they base on bids. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when the bid is trying to get under somebody else's bid, so they can get the job, because that ultimately is how bids are done. You're always trying to get under somebody else. Okay.
Okay.
Sometimes you got to take money out of your reserve to get your materials because you cut your throat on your materials. You've made sure your guys are paid. But contractors also
never advise any business owner to put any bid in that loses them money. There's no point in that.
Here's the thing. Sometimes you have to do it, man, just to get that bid.
So you would rather take a job that loses you money overall?
Sometimes you have to do it to
No,
get the bid.
I would never advise any business to put a bid into a job that you know you're going to lose money on, ever.
I get that you would never advise that, and that's cool. I get that. However, it happens.
Why would any business do that?
So in construction, specifically that industry,
mm-hmm.
Your guys still get paid.
I'm asking, if you are a business owner in construction,
mm-hmm.
which you said you have a lot of experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you ever put in a bid that loses you money? Why?
Because you're trying to get underneath the guy in front of you.
Why? You haven't answered the question. I don't care if I win the bid. Why would you want to? So you would rather win a bid from John Smith, but it would cost you $10,000, and you're okay with that?
Most contractors do this at some point in their life, at some point in their professional
life.
Why? Because they need to win the bid. They need to get
the bid. For what reason? It's costing you money.
Because they still have guys that have to work.
Who cares? Unemployment. Go get another. Okay, so you would rather pay $10,000 out of your pocket to have a job like that? Okay, and this is why I would never advise anybody. Well, this makes 0 sense. 0 cents that you would ever go out and put a bid in that you know loses you money.
And what
happens? Makes zero business sense. Zero business sense.
More expensive because you run into something.
Well, then hopefully you have a change order process as part of your agreement that, if things are above 10% of cost or things change 10%, that you go back to the actual client. They pay the difference.
We'll go there.
That's why also in bidding, you also have a 10%, kind of miscellaneous sort of buffer.
industry
that
standard
covers those things. Okay, 15%,
So
right? That's supposed
10
to
to
cover that stuff.
15%, that 10 to 15% covers what's known as waste, not new issues. Okay.
Right. So hopefully in your agreement,
So
you
in your agreement,
included it in there that if things have actually changed, that there's change orders that are made. I've been part of
and
the contracting process.
if you're reputable, it's at the discretion of the client. If you're
Right, so you
reputable,
shouldn't do it then. Yeah, if you're reputable and a client wants something changed,
but then you lose money anyway.
No, you
Because
don't. Because if the client wants something changed, you're going to go and you're going to do a change order and they're going to pay
No,
for
I'm
it.
not saying they wanted something changed. I said there's an issue that you run into. I have gone in and done drywall jobs where I've run into I need to hire an electrician to come in as a subcontractor.
Yeah, and hopefully that would have been in your contract that said, hey, we are unsure of what's behind these walls. So if something comes up that's a big issue, we got to change the contract. Like,
Well,
that's how things work.
You can't just arbitrarily change the contract because it's up to the homeowner whether they want it done or not.
Okay, and if they don't do it and you can't get past inspection, then you can't do the job.
Right,
Like,
so you lose money anyway.
No, you don't lose money. You're not losing money because nobody's doing the work.
Well, that's the problem. That's where you're looking at it very narrow. Most contracts.
I'm looking at it from a business perspective.
No, most contracts are not a lump sum up front.
You're right. I'm not saying that they are. But if you let's say this, let's just use an example in your situation, right? Let's say it's a $40,000 job. Okay, so it's a $40,000 job. It's a reconstruction thing. Let's just say that in the contracting business.
Okay.
You put in there, hey, we have no idea what's behind these walls. So there may be some things that happen that are out of our control that will need an increase, right? At the beginning of that contract, you get a $10,000 down payment, or whatever you say, 12.5, like maybe it's 33%.
Usually 20%.
If you don't have any down payment part of these projects, and then you're doing things wrong in business, and you should probably change your agreements. I know with people, one of the biggest changes I've given to people is start taking down payments.
Oh yeah, totally.
So you get your down payment of 10 grand. You start doing work. You start doing demo, which could be covered in your $10,000 down payment. Now you find the electric issue. Okay. You go to the homeowner. Hey, this is a big issue. We're not going to be able to pass inspection. We're not, unless we actually increase the bid. We got to I'll bring in somebody to do a bid. The homeowner then says, I'm not going to do the electric. In your agreement, it should stay in there that if they don't do anything that passes inspection, you'll stop work immediately until they however you want to word it legally. Okay. So no, you're not out. You're not out money, right? Nobody's worked to earn the other 30. It doesn't matter. It's not lost income because you haven't actually done the work to have to pay out.
It does show up as lost income when you put in your bills.
That's not GAAP. That's not GAAP because there's no bills associated with it, right?
But there are bills associated.
You come in, you do demo, right? Your demo work, you pay your guys. Maybe it's 5,000 out of the first 10, right? And the 10 is non-refundable. Okay, so now you pay your guys, you pay the initial materials that you had to buy, and you don't lose anything because you don't have any bills that you have to pay out of the other 30.
But you do have bills you have to pay.
Why? You haven't done any of that work. What do you have to pay?
Because when you put in your invoices, your bills, your invoices, okay, because let's get that terminology straight right now. Bills and invoices, same thing. Industry calls it bills. Everybody else calls it invoices. Got it. Cool. It's the same thing with trucking.
Bills, what you got to pay. Invoices are what you get paid. Right.
Well, yes. But
invoices are you getting paid. Bills are what you have to pay. Right.
In the industry, Dave, a bill and an invoice is the same thing. It's the same thing with the trucking industry too. It's the same thing. Okay.
Okay, but I'm still I don't understand what.
All right. You have this amount of money set up for this job. So we're going to go with your 40 grand. Okay. So the 40 grand for the job. You have now projected that you're going to have that 40 grand. Now you run into this problem. Okay.
Okay.
The business, the client says, I'm not doing this.
Correct.
Okay, cool. In order to get it set up to have a subcontractor, okay, most subcontractors have a contract with their GC.
Okay. I'm still not seeing the issue.
Okay, that contract pays out whether they're doing the subcon or not?
Well, that would be a bad agreement. That would be a bad agreement. So
that's how the agreements work in the industry.
What?
You have a retainer fee. You have a retainer fee that has to be paid out based on that contract.
Right. So then don't contract your guys. If the work starts, sure, I get it. Like I could understand, like if they started the work, but if that subcontractor never started the work that needed to be done after the electric's done, then you're not losing any money.
Retainer fee, Dave. It's like retaining an attorney. You pay that retainer fee for a year, whether you use the attorney or not.
I get that. I get that. But what I'm saying is that your agreement should be covering you for those things.
But you do the same thing with contractors or with subcontractors. A GC subcontracts at the beginning of a year with a list of subcontractors, electricians, plumbers, whatever. Okay.
Okay.
That retainer is paid at the beginning of the year.
I've never heard of this being done, and I've worked with contractors, but go ahead.
Yeah. The retainer is paid at the beginning of the year. That retainer,
okay, so you're paid, so that retainer is already gone. So who cares? Like that's not part of this specific job. I still don't understand why you're saying that if you get paid, how do you lose money?
You've lost part of the money that you paid for the retainer, the subcontractor.
How? Because they're just going to do their job with you down the road.
So you can't agree.
That's what I don't get.
You can't agree with me that a loss happens, and that's all right. You don't have to.
No loss happens because nothing is spent after that, right?
But a
loss to a business owner, right? So let's just talk. We want to talk gap, right? We want to talk gap, right? We want to talk gap.
Still writing it as a loss on your taxes.
When you get awarded a bid that's $40,000, okay, a job that's $40,000, that is booked as unearned income, right? And it's not even like the 40,000 is booked as unearned income. It's literally just what you've gotten paid. What?
Your dogs were vocal today.
Yeah, there's people moving in the house. So yeah. But you only book what you actually get paid, right? And so if you get let's say you get the first 25,000 of the 40, right? So now the 25,000, you only book to unearned income, and then you book what you actually earn as you earn it, right? So maybe it's milestones, et cetera, how you're doing it in the industry. Right. The other, let's say 15 in this case, is never on your books. So if you never finish that work and you have no expenses related to that 15, there's no loss. Right.
But there is
so why would you ever, again, going back to the point, why would you ever put in that bid of, let's say, that $40,000 bid? You're putting it in, and based on what you had said before, you would put in that $40,000 bid to undercut somebody, knowing that it's going to cost you $45,000. You would still put in that $40,000 bid. That makes zero sense, and I would never advise anybody to do that.
Contractors
it makes zero sense.
Keep working.
It doesn't make sense. To keep working, why would the business owner ever want to say, you know what, guys, I want to keep you working. I'm going to pay an extra $5,000 for you guys to keep working. They would never do that. It makes zero sense.
There's a responsibility to your employees, unless, of course, you see people as expendable.
So then go find another job where you can make money to keep them working. It makes zero sense that you would literally.
Sometimes that job doesn't exist. Sometimes that other job doesn't exist, Dave.
Well, then I would not. Then you're going to lose the job. No contractor that I know that I've talked with would ever put in a bid that loses them money. Okay, and I would never advise anybody to put in a bid that's going to lose them money. It makes zero sense. And you want to go back to people. You want to talk about seeing people as expendable? Sure. If that's how you want to put it. But the idea is if the business owner continues to put in bids just to keep people working that loses them money, there's not going to be a business for them to work at. So they're going to be gone anyways. So this is asinine to me. I don't understand how you could say that you would advise to people that they put in bids that loses them money. I didn't say I'd advise it.
I said I've done it.
Right, but that doesn't make any sense.
I didn't say I'd advise it. I said I've done it. I've said it happens in the industry.
But I just don't understand why that would happen. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Because they have that responsibility to their employees and they feel it. And it does happen.
Okay. And so maybe if they're following profit first, they would have a reserve that maybe they could pull from for a job like that would cover the difference.
The key word in there is maybe. Now,
Right. But if they were following profit first and they had a good profit first professional who understood that there was times that go slow, they would actually have a drip account set up that in times when things are slow, they're able to pull from that drip account to actually keep things whole. And that's what the difference is.
Again, the key word is if. I'm not
Right.
saying you.
But if they're not working with anybody that's setting it up and they're trying to do it all themselves, they're just going to spend it. That's the human habit. Okay.
And here's the thing. If they're working with you, because I find you to be a reputable individual, straight up. If they're working with you, probably not going to be an issue. If they're working with Joe down the street, who isn't one of the reputable guys, who is one of the bad actors,
then they're not going to be a profit first professional for a long time. I'll give you that.
Right. And that's just it. Same thing applies in the funding industry. Right. We're going to circle back here, buddy. Same thing applies in the funding industry. If you're working with me, you know you've done it. If you're working with me, you're going to get, you know what? If that's not realistic to you, don't do it. If you're bankable, you're going to get, go ahead and go to the bank.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you have the collateral and you have the FICO and you have everything that you need to have to get a bank loan, definitely go to the bank. But the people that fall through those cracks that aren't bankable, their next best option are people like me.
But see, I wouldn't even say like, again, in maybe 15 to 20% of situations, they should consider one of these options. And that is only when there is an ROI associated with what they need to do.
Well, I've got a coffee shop that uses their line of credit regularly. I've had an appliance store that has got a CTA and a line of credit and came back under a new DBA for another part of their business to get another BCA.
Okay.
Because it works.
If there's an ROI. If there's an ROI.
It works because there's a strategy. And you're right. It makes money.
If there's an ROI associated with the outcome. Now, it reduces your ROI significantly, as we already talked about. So, for example, let's go back in your scenario to the scenario you gave where somebody has $100,000 of return and they need to buy inventory for 30. Okay.
Yep.
So typically that, if you take that, so that would be about a 70% margin.
70,000.
Right.
It's going to be $7,000 ROI.
Correct. And so that's just gross profit margin. So let's say on that inventory, right, they have overhead, they have all that other stuff that goes into it. Okay. Now let's say the overhead of the company, and they're a typical 10%, net profit, right? So it costs them 30 to get 100,000. They net 70K, which means they have, they have $60,000 of overhead expenses. Okay. For that month. Let's just say that's just a month that they need that in. Right. And so that leaves them $10,000 of profit, which is a 10% profit margin. Okay. Now, in your scenario, just really quick, how much would they pay back for that 30?
I got to do the math right quick, man. Because it depends.
Well, let's just say it typically would be a 1.4, 1.5 factoring, correct?
No. Average factoring is 1.2. I did 1.5 for worst case.
Okay.
Now I can.
Let's say your average. So let's say 1.2.
1.2.
So that means they're going to pay you back $36,000.
Yep.
For that 30. Okay. So now that extra $6,000 goes directly to their bottom line, right? As another expense. So now their 10K of profit now only becomes a $4,000 profit. Right. So now their profit margin is only 4% from 10%. So that factoring actually reduced their profit margin by over 100%.
So is bank loan.
No.
Well, bank loan actually will reduce their profit margin too, because they've got to make the payments and they've got the interest that compounds.
You're right. However,
so profit margin.
For a $30,000 loan from a bank loan, right? But a $30,000 loan from a bank.
I didn't say these weren't expensive. I didn't say that. Never once did I say that these aren't expensive.
Right.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to say is that, right, most owners don't understand. Right?
Which is why we're having this conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And what I was trying to say,
but you got to let me have the conversation, because here's the deal. Okay.
I am.
Yes, they are expensive. Yes, they should be used sparingly and responsibly. Yes, there should be an ROI. And honestly, any ROI that you get on these, I advise when I talk to people that it should be anywhere between 60 to 70% of what they got. So on top of what they got.
70%.
On top of what they got. So if they've got 50,000, they should be making anywhere between $150,000 to $200,000 on that.
Right, but see, this is where, right, but this is where, again, it needs to go that extra level, because if you just look at top line revenue, right, which is what you're advising people on, and you're missing the whole other piece of it, something like this can easily turn. This can easily turn into something that's worse. So, like, if in the case, the previous example, if it turned into they were a 1.5 factor, right? Mm-hmm. They meet your margin, right? They're definitely getting way more than 60, 70% of what they got, right? So they're making 70. But if they were a 1.5 factor, right, they would actually have to pay back $45,000 for that 30, which means your net profit would be a negative number.
If and only
they'd be losing 5,000.
If and only if they accept the offer. Just like you declined it.
Listen, it's human nature. Let me ask you this. I mean, come on. You show somebody who is in desperate need of $30,000. Hey, I got this great option for you. It's $30,000. Here's what it is, and it's small repayments, right? You're not telling them how much total, right? You may show it on a document, but you're not going to say it. You're going to be like, "Oh, I got this option. Here's $30,000. It's only going to be like, $120, every single day, 5 days a week." You're not actually saying, you know what? By the way, like, here's the thing. You're not. So what you're saying is that you actually, that whole scenario that I just did right here, you're looking at their net profit. Okay. You're actually telling them.
Once they get an offer, because I don't see the offers to begin with. My clients have to share them with me if they want me to know, and they want an explanation and they want to talk about it. But once they have an offer, I get an email telling me they have an offer. I make a phone call every single time. And we have this discussion. That's what a good broker does.
And so you actually break it down all the way down to, hey, by the way, if you take this, you're losing money?
Yeah. And if they're losing money, my advice is don't take it.
And that would be the case in about 80 to 90%.
No.
What do you mean no? Because unless they're doing it for an ROI, they're probably going to lose money, or at least reduce their profit.
Here's the thing. Just like with yours, you didn't qualify for anything that was going to cause that problem. You qualified for something in microfunding.
No, I qualified that something that would put me in a worse situation, probably.
You qualified for microfunding.
I think I qualified. Because I just went through it just to see what I would actually qualify for. I didn't need it. They wouldn't want me to pay like double what the offer was for. Like, come on. Like, that's
microfunding. There's a big difference. There's microfunding and macrofunding. It doesn't matter.
Like, if it's microfunding, I'll give you that. Okay, there's a big difference. Sure. But
there is a big difference.
The fact is, here's the thing. Here's my problem with these things, right? Is that once, like this case, okay? So 1 month they take the 30, right? Then they get back the 100. They pay all their money, right? They pay back the 36. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now they definitely need to get it the next month because they don't have the profit to
no, they don't need to
actually
get it
build it up. Why not?
Because I would never advise them to take it if it's going to give them that low of a margin. So they don't need
so on this. So on this scenario, if it costs you $30 to get $100,000 in inventory,
and we break down the numbers the way you just did, and we break down the numbers the way you just did, because that's what a responsible broker does. Okay, I would never advise them to take it. I would tell them it's a bad risk, because that's what a responsible broker does. It's not about.
Let me ask you: have you ever funded somebody that needed it for payroll?
No.
You've never funded anybody that needs it for payroll.
Bad risk. I won't do it. I personally will not do it.
Okay.
It's against
my in the industry, which is what we've been talking about here, right? The vast majority of these types of situations are given to people that are trying to pay for payroll or trying to pay for things that have already occurred. Okay.
No, that's not the best.
That
No,
oh, come
that's
on.
not.
Okay.
That's the people you've met. That's not the vast majority of them. The vast majority are using it for growth catalyst. They're using it because they know they can get the ROI. The people you've met, I get it. They've either had bad brokers or made bad decisions. And it's cool. People do it all the
It's
time.
not just met. It's just the common thing. Just like that's like saying payday loans for people are, well, they just needed it because they, you know, they just needed it to payday. Like
now
it's the same situation.
No, it's not. Because a payday loan doesn't have the same kind of regulations. And by the way, payday loans are now illegal in almost all 50 states because of that reason.
The amount of interest that they can charge, right? And that's the only thing you guys aren't regulated in terms of how much interest you can charge.
I never said it wasn't expensive. Matter of fact, I have said it several times that it is expensive. It's not being used properly. I have said that several times. Right. I've never said that I would put somebody in a bad situation. Because here's the deal, okay? At this point, through the regulations that I have to use, all right? Mm-hmm. If you're not making $15K on your lowest month, you're not getting approved.
Okay, but that's $15K. Like again, you're talking high numbers.
15K
like
revenue. 15K
you could be bringing $15,000 of revenue in and lose money. Like that doesn't like why you only. But if you only look at revenue, like that doesn't matter.
They're also underwriters are also looking at daily balance, time in business. Is the bank account in good standing? So if you had NSFs and all that great stuff, negative days, you're not getting approved if you have all those things.
Just like you're not going to get approved in typical funding, right? But that's not what I'm talking about. That's not that, and that has never been a contention. And actually, it was something where you said like profit first causes there to be more NSFs, which I thought was pretty funny.
No, I didn't say that.
That was in your first report.
No, I didn't say that.
You said that the account increases, the profit first increases as NSFs, which causes you not to be fundable. And I actually debunked that.
I said in that report that it could potentially cause that in your operating funds.
How?
Potentially. Because if you have more coming out in an operating month and you've already moved all this money, you either have to move money back or
you don't spend it.
Bite the bullet.
You don't spend it.
Well, you sometimes don't have.
You don't let your. Yeah, you do. You renegotiate, right? If you have your
electric bill that went up because you had 15 machines running instead of 10,
you would pay that out of your operating expense because the money would be there.
Right, but if your operating expense isn't set up for 15 machines instead of 10.
Well, here's the thing. When you transfer money in, you're not transferring money just for the minimums, right? The idea is that you're transferring based on an average, which let's say because you're seasonal and you look at it, the percentage is going to be the average. So you're going to, on the slow months, you're going to be building up a reserve. So on the high months, it's actually already there, right?
And
this is the benefit of actually having it. So
likewise, if you're not going
to have NSFs.
Likewise, though, if you're taking a BCA, you're not taking that BCA. Usually, there are some people that get a little freaked out, but usually you're not taking that BCA for anything other than a growth move. Which means you're going to get.
I'm going to respectfully tell you that that's incorrect.
And
because
I'm going to
the majority of business owners that are looking for that are looking for a loan, it's because they're in a cash situation that they need money, whether it's for growth, whether it's for new equipment, whether it's for, hey, I got to come up with payroll and I don't have the money for it, whether it's I took too much money out and I can't put it back in. Like the vast majority of situations fall into the latter two, right? They don't fall into the I need to buy inventory, or even if they do, we already just proved that sometimes it can still destroy your margin by taking one of these things and putting you into a worse situation. I get a responsible broker. I'm talking about the industry as a whole, though, right? Well, the actual idea of a BCA. What most people don't understand, right? The business owners don't understand is how they work, right? That's even if you have a good broker or not. And a lot of times a good broker is still going to present the information to you and say, hey, I think this is your best option, right? And they're going to say this is your best option. Yeah.
A good broker would never say that if it's not. A good broker would never say it's their best option if it's not. Because it's not our job to put them in a bad situation. It's our job to make sure that it's the right fit at the right time for the business.
I'll give you credit for that, like yourself. I'm talking about the industry as a whole, though.
Yeah, and I am
you know,
too.
again,
A good broker, a good responsible broker in the industry as a whole is not ever going to put their clients at risk when the numbers don't work. They're not going to do it. Now, the bad actors, which we've already agreed are in every industry, the bad actors, yeah, they'll do it because they're commission chasing.
Which I would say is probably the majority.
Not really. You'd be surprised with all the regulations. The state of California, the state of California has regulations as to what terminology we can use and whether and most of the time you have to be a licensed broker to even present an offer. Good. So the bank is presenting it, the lender is presenting it, not us. In New York, there are certain factors that can't be used. In New Jersey, they won't even let us do it for certain industries in New Jersey because it would be considered predatory.
So, and why do you think that's happening? Right? Because the policymakers have to protect the actual individual who doesn't understand any idea what's happening.
Just like any industry that is still growing up. Because let's be real, alternative funding is new for businesses.
Right.
So just like any industry.
Yeah, and we see what it's done with payday loans, how it's done to the individual. You're right.
Okay. With the industry still growing up, just like any industry still growing up. Flaws are found, man. Right. And I don't deny that.
This industry takes advantage of people that are desperate. We can agree on that, right? Like you're taking advantage of people that are desperate with 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5. Like that's crazy, right?
Now you're blaming the tool. Blame the people that are the bad actors. Don't blame the tool.
I'm blaming the tool.
You're blaming the industry.
A BCA in general, right, is a bad investment unless you have, in this case, these individuals, right, were in the 30 to 100, right? They were getting a 70% margin, right? They're actually going to triple their money, okay? Mm-hmm. But because of the fact that they still have other expenses that got to come out of that money, it actually costs the business, right, a significant amount of their profit margin to take this option.
The bad actors are the ones that push it. And there are very few of those these days.
Right, but what's going to happen? What's going to happen if you tell them no? They're still going to go and they're going to go do it. If they don't understand what's going on, they're going to find somebody else, or they're still going to go against your advice. Like that all I'm saying is that it's
their choice.
Horrible, right? And that's why I'm trying to educate people on it. That BCAs, MCAs, whatever it is, they're bad for your business. You have to find other ways, and it comes down to money management, which is why Profit First actually helps people to avoid the situation of having to take one of these options, right? That's going to cost them a significant amount of money.
And your money management, and I understand. Okay. Money management is definitely important, whether it's Profit First or other options. Okay. Mm-hmm. I get it. It's cool. But not everybody all the time has the money now to hit their growth. And they can't just wait for it.
You're right, because they haven't planned for it.
Well, they do plan for it. They just don't plan it in a moment of time where I can get this right now because this is a sale that I didn't know about.
Okay, but if they plan for it efficiently, then they would have either the money set aside or the funding options lined up for them when it were to happen.
But the funding options come down sometimes to brokers. It's just an option. It's a tool, man. You can't blame the tool. You wouldn't blame your pencil for misspelling a word, right?
Yeah, again, that has nothing to do with it.
Well, yes, it does. You're blaming the tool. It's not the tool that's bad. It's the bad actors in the industry.
You're right. I am blaming the tool in this case because it costs business owners a significant amount of money to take advantage of it. So if the tool is bad, you can still blame the tool.
Well, no, a tool is a tool.
Yeah, because the industry as a whole doesn't educate people on how much it actually costs. The business as a tool is trying to hide behind wording that they're not charging people interest. Oh, this is just cost of funds. This isn't interest. This isn't an APR. Don't worry about it. It's just cost of funding. Don't worry. Like that's the problem I have.
Well, every industry has their own terms. Yes?
Not when it comes to cost of funds. No.
Well,
I mean,
yes,
that's just
even
general.
with a bank, your interest rate, even with a bank, is still the cost of funds.
Sure.
Okay. So
but the fact is that you tried to actually tell me, and I believe it was on the phone when you called me, like, I don't charge interest, man. It's not interest. Yeah, it is.
It's cost of funds.
You're hiding behind a word. You just admitted that the bank says the same thing, that your interest is cost of funds.
It's cost of funds.
No, it's interest is the same thing. You just admitted it.
It's cost of funds because that's the proper term.
Okay, but in common knowledge, what that means is interest, correct? Can we agree on that? That it's average 90% of people, when they think of cost of funds, they use the word interest?
We can agree that people are conditioned to believe that, yes. We can agree that.
Right. So then when you say your cost of funds, that's really interest.
We can agree that people are conditioned by traditional systems to believe that. Yes.
Wait a minute, but you just said banks use interest as cost of funds and vice versa.
No,
but in reality, we can't.
Your bank interest is cost of funds. The problem with bank interest is that cost of funds fluctuates from month to month because of compounding interest. A straight payback has a straight cost of funds.
It's still interest. Still interest.
And you can choose to look at it that way. You're absolutely right.
I'm not choosing to look at it that way. It's anytime you pay back more than what you get, it's interest. It's interest, whether you call it cost of funds.
If I borrow $10 from you and you want 15 back, the cost of funds is 5.
Okay? It's an interest, right? It's my risk, right? That's the point. I'm covering my cost. My risk in you of giving me back my 10. It's still interest.
It's cost. Any way we slice
it's interest because the IRS would require me to claim the $5 as interest earned.
Oh, you're going to claim that on the IRS?
It's in the law, technically. So yes, technically.
Alternative funding, that is the cost of funds. It's not necessarily the money,
but it's interest.
It's not necessarily the money that's made by the lender, because the lender pays their commissions to the agency.
It doesn't matter. I'm not talking about that. It's still to the business owner interest that they have to pay.
Interest that they're going to have to pay on is going to be a lot lower than, say, the $25,000 in the first example we ran through. It's going to be a lot lower.
Doesn't matter how it's paid.
Well, you just said they're going to pay on that interest. They're still
because
going to
any fee, anything associated with getting that funding is still kind of a cost of that funding, which is interest.
Well, now
it's still more money that you're paying.
We're talking about the lender now because they got to pay taxes.
I don't care about the lender.
But you just brought them up because they're going to pay taxes on it.
Sure. And of course, they're going to have expenses related to, just like any other business that has income coming in. They're going to have expenses. I get it. That has nothing to do with this conversation. This conversation has to do with the fact that to the business owner, they are paying interest on that money. However, the bank decides to use their interest and allocate the interest to other people, that has nothing to do with the business owner. The business owner is still paying the interest.
They're paying a straight cost of funds. The cost of funds in an alternative funding is a straight payback. The cost of funds in the banking industry is a variable payback because of compounding.
Not variable. It's a set interest rate and a set repayment term.
So it's variable. It varies.
You're right. Mm-hmm. And if I pay that loan back in full after the first month, I only pay that first month's of interest. I don't pay some already astronomically high interest.
Plus 2 to 5% of early payback.
Most loans nowadays don't have early payback penalties.
2 to 5% of early payback. It's actually, most loans do have that, Dave.
I've never actually signed a loan, whether it was when I was working for a $150 million organization, a $15 million organization, or myself personally, that had early payback penalties. Never had it.
And you are one of the few that have had that luck. And that's cool.
So you negotiate it. It's called negotiating. Come on, it's called making people aware of these things. You know what I mean?
Negotiation on a bank contract very rarely happens, Dave. The fact that you have that luck is great. I'm glad for you. I'm happy for you. That's awesome.
Sure.
But unless you are one of those S corps or C corps, you're not going to negotiate because you're going to look at that contract and you're going to go, okay, I get the money, and I don't plan on paying it off early anyway. So I'm not going to worry about that.
Right. So even if you, let's say you even if you do pay it off with the early payment penalty of 2%, It's still a lot
Mhm.
less than paying a flat rate of 50,000 or whatever it
But
ends up being a factoring.
that early 2% isn't just on the principal; it's on what's left over.
Yeah, I don't know about
Because
that.
that's how banks make their money, Dave.
I get it.
They make their money based off of that. So they're going to hit you for the 2% of what the total amount would have been had you paid it off all the way through.
Oh, okay. And 2% of that total amount is a lot less than
2% of $350,000 plus your compounding interest, because they do
that's
put that on
7,000.
there. Plus their compounding interest, because they do put that on there. You could be paying 2% of anywhere between $500,000 to $600,000, depending on what your payback was.
Okay, so 10,000. So you pay 10,000 if you pay off the $350,000. Now, if you were to factor that, if you were to factor 350 grand, let's just say even at 1.1%, that's $35,000.
Well, look here, because I'm just
If you
going
were to factor at 1.1, it's 35 grand.
It's not 35 grand, it's 30.
$350,000 at a 1.1 factor.
I did 300. I did 300. So that's where our discrepancy is. It's 30. But
yeah, because you have 350.
But again,
so 35 grand. Okay, and then even if you only pay, even if you get, I think you said even if you get a 25% discount by paying it off in the first month, right? That's still,
in the second, or in the third, or
right. You're still paying $26,000 flat if you pay that off. If you were to factor it, then if you were to get a bank loan with an early payment penalty, so it's still cheaper to do the bank loan.
Where you're not looking is what is the strategy they're using it for, because that's what the big determiner is. If they're using it, like I've got a guy that is
seeing why that applies to a bank versus a factoring situation here.
It applies to both. So I've got a guy that is looking to apply. Okay. He's wanting to buy a building in Indiana. All right. Whole shopping mall building. Okay. His ROI on that, he only needs $450, I think he said. Don't have my notes right in front of me. He will get that offer based on his revenue. Okay. His FICO is awesome. His revenue is awesome. He's what's known as A paper. All right. He'll get that offer. But his ROI on that is $2.8 million.
Okay. And
so his factor is going to be closer to the 1.1 because of his FICO is awesome. Okay.
Okay, but I'm not. What does it have to do with a traditional loan versus BCA?
Because the traditional loan he would have to wait 6 to 8 months for. He's already looked at it. With us, he waits 48 hours.
Okay. No, I'm not saying that.
So,
and again, this fits into the situation where I said maybe it makes sense for you to do it. I've never said it. I from the get-go, I said that there are specific situations where this makes sense when there's an actual ROI.
But you said the tool is the problem. The tool isn't the problem. The usage of the tool is. Just like with Profit First. Profit First isn't the problem. The usage of the tool is.
So in the case of the BCA, right, for anything that doesn't fit like one of these actual scenarios where there's a big ROI, it's the tool, right? Because in most cases, most cases, right, would be that they're going to be 1.3, 1.4, 1.5.
1.2 is
the average comes down. 1.2, 1.25 comes down to the average, right? But you probably have, and that's average because your 1.1s are, like you just said, the bigger numbers, which then makes the average down to 1.2. So
the 1.1, the factor is determined by your FICO, but
you're right. But what I'm saying is that if you have a lot more of these people that have better credits, they're going for like these bigger, situations like you just said, it's going to bring down the average than the average owner who's looking to only get like 20,000 or 30,000. Okay. There's 3 or 4 of those at 1.5 that added up to, 1 of the 1.1, and the average is still going to be 1.2 because the 1.1 is higher. All I'm saying, right, is that the tool, when you're looking to charge somebody that much significant extra cash, right, for the money that they're getting, it just builds a cycle. Because once they get the first one, now they take $5,000 out of their future cash flow. Now they're going to have to do it again just to pay the next one. Now there's $10,000 out of their cash flow.
That's called stacking, Dave, and that's illegal.
What do you mean? Every one of them are written where once you pay 50% off, you can pay, right? You can get another one, right? I'm not saying you can stack. I'm not saying anything like that. What I'm talking about is that once they get one,
you're not going through the same lender all the time. Because if you go through a secondary lender, if you go through another lender, that's called stacking and it's illegal.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that they then pay off the first one and get you another one, right? Or they paid off the first one and now they need another one. And now they're in the same situation. And now instead of 5 out of their future cash flow, there's 10 out of their future cash flow.
You're assuming that's all I'm saying. You're assuming they're taking a renewal because that's what it's called.
Most owners are going to have to.
No.
Yes.
I've only had one client take a renewal.
If there's no ROI associated with it, most of them are going to be taking renewals. Your case,
if there's
sure.
no ROI, why would they take it in the first place?
Because, like as you said, they want to pay payroll. They need to cover expenses. They need to do things. So they take it because
that's where a line of credit comes in, and the entire tool is just gone.
But even then, it's still the tool. The tool at that point. So the tool for specific situations is fine. If it doesn't fit the situation, then the tool is the problem because most of the people that it's generated to, most of the people that it's marketed to are not the people like your dude that need $450,000 in 48 hours to buy a shopping mall. It's marketed to people that are searching, I need cash fast, or I need cash now. How do I cover payroll? That's when it's marketed to. And they get the pop-up to say, oh, get $50,000 today.
Where do you see this marketing? Because all I've seen on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, well, X now.
What do you mean? Where is it marketed
Where is this marketing?
It's how it's pushed.
Well, no, that's not how it's pushed. That's how bad actors in the industry push it. It's not the tool. It's the bad actors and the lack of having a structure. That's the problem, Dave. It's not the tool. Just like you wouldn't blame the pencil for misspelling a word.
Again, you're right. You wouldn't charge the pencil, but it'd be different if the pencil, created 3 extra words for every time you wanted to use one. There's a difference. So I get it. I get the analogy, but
you have control of the pencil, just like the client has control of whether or not they take the funding.
And all I'm saying is I want them to understand the funding, right? Understand the actual implications. And so let's get back to one thing because I do got to. This is actually a good back and forth. However, it's gone a lot longer than our typical ones. But I want to say, Dwarren/James, appreciate you kind of sharing that comment there. I'm sure there's more than that. It sounds like, but it didn't show the entire comment.
Yeah,
but
I couldn't see
the one thing I want to get back to, right? And then we can always do another one of these. And
definitely
is the profit first, right? Cash management system. See why? Again, as we talked about in some of these things, what is your issue with the profit first cash management system?
My biggest issue is that it does look risky when an underwriter looks at it. It may not look risky to the bank loan officer, but they're not the one underwriting. The bank loan officer knows what's going on there. They've either worked with the person or can look at the banking accounts and see it.
What does an underwriter look at? The underwriter looks at a balance sheet, profit and loss, right, and bank balances, correct?
No. Underwriter looks at all of those things, plus time in business, whether or not they own their building. They look at cash in and cash out of the central account. If there's so many transactions out of that central account, they won't even touch it because it's a higher risk.
But it's not. It's going to other accounts in their business. Like they're going to look at their balance sheet. They're going to see 5 accounts and they're going to have 100. So you're telling me a business, right, that's got 5 accounts that has bank balances of $50,000 are going to get denied, but somebody who has one bank balance that's got 5,000 is going to get approved? I don't think so.
Well, having one bank balance of $5,000 isn't going to approve you in anywhere. Straight up.
Okay.
One bank balance of $5,000 isn't going to approve you for anything.
With an average daily balance of 5,000, and just at month end when you print the balance sheet, it says 5,000. You're okay with that? That they're going to get approved, right?
Average daily, yes.
If the average daily is 5,000 and the balance sheet at the end of the month shows $5,000 in one account, you're going to approve it versus a company that's got a balance sheet at the end of the month with 5 accounts that have, combined bank balances of 100,000. That's just something you're telling me that's going to be.
Listen to me. $1,000.
No, I'm trying to understand how this is.
I understand.
They could just put $5,000 in an account, and never touch it, never have any revenue.
$5,000. Well, then they're not going to get approved anyway because it has to be verifiable revenue. But $5,000 a day as daily balance, because you said daily balance, is $150,000 a month.
No, that's why you can't use average daily balance, because just because they have an average daily balance of 5,000 doesn't mean anything.
The average daily balance.
Because I can put $5,000 in there at the beginning of the month. It could be 5,000 at the end of the month, and it's going to have an average daily balance of 5,000.
Average daily balance is only used to figure repayment. The lowest month revenue in the last 3 to 6 months, depending on the agency in the industry. Okay. That lowest amount is what the offer is based on.
Okay, but what I'm trying to get back to, though, is you say that having multiple accounts with transfers between the accounts is a red flag. If a balance sheet, right? If a business has a balance sheet with 5 accounts that has $50,000 between those 5 accounts, you're saying that's a red flag versus a company that has one account with a $5,000. How does that make sense? How is that a red flag?
Those transfers count against them. In underwriting,
what do you mean? It transfers to your own account don't count against you. They're your own money.
They look at that as a high risk because you have all of these different accounts. It's like,
listen, if somebody's watching this, share this with an underwriter. I would love to get their opinion on this, because that makes 0 sense, right? 0 sense that me transferring money from my income account to my payroll account is a negative red flag, or from my income account to my tax account is a red flag.
Oh, I'm going to share it with one of our underwriters.
Great. I'd love to actually then include them on the show, and let's debate that, why they actually look at that.
Sure.
So it just makes 0 sense why transfers between my own accounts, right? And here's where, at least my interpretation of it, is because you guys want to see all the money in one account. So you can say, look, I'm going to give you a much bigger loan than what you should actually take, right? Because here's all your money in your account, in one account. This is why you should take the big money. No. What you should be looking at is, let's look at what's the actual spending in the operating expense, what's money's going into the operating, and then let's say we're going to give you money on that.
But they do. That's the point of the bank statements, Dave.
What do you mean? You just said it's a red flag if there's more than one big.
No, the bank statements that we collect for the last 3 to 6 months, depending on which agency.
Right.
That's the point, is to look at their spending. That's the point, to determine whether or not they can afford.
But you just said that a red flag, right, is if I move money into my tax reserve account, or my profit reserve account, or my owner's pay account, that's a red flag versus having money all in one account.
It depends on the number of the transfers too. So if you're doing 2 transfers a month, you're probably not going to get red flagged. But there are some people that use your system. And again, I'm not blaming the system. I'm blaming the people that use it improperly and the bad actors in your industry.
You could do it daily. You could do it daily. You could do it weekly. You could do it twice a month. You could do it monthly. It all depends on how often your spending happens.
The more transfers you're doing, the more that red flags.
But you're not transferring money in. You're not transferring money out. You're transferring money just between your accounts.
But you are transferring money out to separate accounts.
No, they're all internal accounts. What do you mean?
So you're telling me that it's on paper only, right? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's your bank balance, right? You're going to have 5 accounts at your bank. One bank.
Which are all separate accounts.
5 accounts. Yeah. And you're going to, all the money gets deposited into your income. And then at your allocation time, whether it's daily, weekly, twice a month, whatever that balance is, you then split it up to your 4 accounts, and it gets allocated out, and your income balance is 0. And then your other accounts.
If it was only on paper, it wouldn't red flag. But
it's not paper. Yeah, it's never going to be on paper.
Because it's going to different accounts physically. Those transfers look unsteady. Those transfers make it look.
How does it look unsteady? That doesn't make any sense.
Because it makes it look like you're moving. Well, you gotta let me finish, or you're going to get interrupted again. Look,
I'm just confused.
It makes it look like you are moving money to either hide it, or you're moving money to cover expenses in other places that you don't want people to know about. That's what it looks like.
How does that look that way when all the bank accounts are in the business? The bank accounts are they're literally on your balance sheet. They can see it. They can say, oh, here's his profit. Here's his tax. They're seeing it in their statements. How can you then say, oh my God, this account's to hide shit? That doesn't make any sense.
Accounts. They're separate accounts.
But what are you hiding if all the money is in your accounting? If all the accounts are there, okay, and you see it on your balance sheet, how is that hiding money?
If you're making these transfers repeatedly, more than 5 usually is what flags. If you're making these transfers repeatedly and you're not actually paying a bill, it looks like you're moving money to cover expenses that you're not wanting to pay
outside of the business, but they're all internal.
You're moving the money outside of the account. The business, the
you're
primary
right. You move it from income to all your other ones. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Your primary business account is what underwriters are looking at.
Right, because they want to give you more money than what you should. They don't want to take into account that you should have tax set aside. You want to have profit reserve set aside, any of that. You're right. They want to see everything in one account and then help you that you'll spend and not take into account that you need to have tax money set aside.
And those are the bad actors. Those are the bad actors.
What do you mean? You're advising it right now.
No, I'm saying that it looks bad to underwriters. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying it looks bad to underwriters. I'm putting out information whether you like it or not.
But your whole opinion, right, is that by following this, it is not going to help people qualify for your products.
My whole thing is that
even though it's actually to their benefit,
what I'm saying is
that's the difference. Typical loan officers are going to. No, actually, no. I've had plenty of conversations.
Underwriters, Dave. You're still.
It doesn't matter. They're banks. Oh my God. I've talked to business owners that have actually talked and gotten loans. I've talked to the loan officers. They want a steady, stable company, right? Can we agree on that?
With a steady, stable income that is not moved more than 4 to 5 times a month.
That is not true.
No, that is completely true. And you keep saying the loan officer isn't the underwriter. They send it to someplace else. And if the
loan officers at an actual bank are the ones that actually work with the underwriting team, and they actually would understand that. Right.
Understood.
So what I'm telling you, and here's the thing that
if they can get the underwriter to believe in the system, then yeah, they're going to get approved.
Underwriters are going to look at your profit and loss. Underwriters are going to look at your balance sheet, correct? Right? They're going to look at your statements. They're going to look at your statements to actually, verify that what's being spent is either being recorded somewhere on your balance sheet or your profit and loss, right? So there's no hiding money. There's no doing any of that because all the money's on the actual financial statement.
But it looks like it, Dave.
It doesn't matter if it looks like it or not. You have my numbers right there. The numbers are right there.
It looks higher risk.
There's no high risk about it. There's no high risk. Because the money is on the financial statement. The money's on the financial statement. You're saying it's high risk. Why?
Because you're moving more money into other accounts. It doesn't matter.
Accounts that are within the business. You're right. It
doesn't matter that they're all under the business umbrella. You're moving more money into the accounts than what you're actually needing to spend to sustain your business. In most cases. Well, I don't know how you apply it with your clients because I've never worked with one of your clients to actually see it. Straight up.
Okay, but
I know how it's been applied to other people and their business.
Explain it then. How?
So here's how it's been applied to others in their business. And this isn't just me. This is other people, which in the 57-page report are notated. What's happening is people are misusing the system because they don't get told. Now, you and I both can.
Because they read the book and tried to do it themselves, or what?
There's
a lot of difference.
Or they have one of the bad actors in your industry. Okay. So you and I can agree that you're one of the good guys. I'm one of the good guys in our respective industries. We can agree with that, right?
Yeah.
So when people are not taught or explained to how to use it, they pull some arbitrary number. And this is where it starts looking bad. They pull some arbitrary percentage because they think they understand it and it was never properly explained. They move that money around.
What do you mean that? Yeah, but again, like, no, for one, no profit first professional would ever just pull a number out of the air. So what it sounds like to me is the people that you're talking to have read the book and decided to try and implement it in their business without getting actual advice, right?
Well, no,
and then,
they've gotten actual advice from bad actors in your industry.
I guarantee it was not a profit. I guarantee it was not a profit first professional. Okay. One, there's only 800 of us. Okay. Two, I guarantee it's somebody who had also like is as a financial bookkeeper or accountant was like, oh, I understand this. Let me try to advise my clients on it without getting certified, because no profit first professional would pick a number out of a hat and say, yep, we're going to go with this. None.
But you asked me
Zero.
You've asked me what I've seen. I'm telling you what I've seen. Okay.
Okay.
I'm not
well,
saying
those people that are doing it wrong. So I'm not going to sit here and say that's right and that's the situation, because nobody should ever just pick a number out of the air.
And I'm not saying that it's right either. I just agreed with you that you and I are both one of the good guys. Okay. Just agreed that with you. I'm not saying you would ever do this. I'm not even saying a certified person would ever do this. I'm saying this is what I've seen. Okay. Just like you've told me that you've seen.
Here's a good question.
What is this?
James, if a person is using the same bank and has multiple accounts within that bank, and they can clearly show all the internal transfers between those accounts, which you should see with the bank statements, what does that actually mean in the context of the cash flow profit process? Does moving money between your own accounts really count as cash flow, or is it just internal shuffling rather than actual revenue and profit? You're right. It's just because you transfer $1,000 from income to your owner's pay account does not add $1,000 of revenue to your business. No. Does not add $1,000 of profit to your business.
But it's still cash
flow. Doesn't do any of that.
It's still cash flow.
It's not cash flow. No, it's not. It's not cash flow because there's a negative out of the income and a positive into your owner's pay. It nets out to zero. It does not increase your cash flow. Net
zero cash flow is still cash flow, Dave, because it's still money in and out of
it. Does not change. It does not affect your cash flow. Okay. Your cash flow statement would show $1,000 in and $1,000 out. It's going to show zero number. Trust me, I'm an accountant. I know this. Okay.
I get that.
It doesn't change or increase your cash flow. It doesn't arbitrarily, create cash flow out of thin air where you're trying to create it. It doesn't do anything like that. Which is what you're trying to say is a red flag.
Money moving is a cash flow. Money moving is cash flow.
You're right. Money moving in and then out, it's a zero. There's no actual net increase, net decrease. It's the same number. All you're doing is giving it a purpose.
I didn't say there was.
You're giving it a purpose.
I didn't say there was a difference. I said it's still cash flow. Even a net zero cash flow is still cash flow.
Sure, if you want to be stricter about it, sure. But the actual fact of when it comes to actually arbitrarily creating cash flow, that's not happening. It's not arbitrarily creating.
I didn't say it was creating anything. I'm answering his question. How does it impact cash flow? It's still cash flow.
It doesn't impact cash flow.
It may be a net zero cash flow, but it's still cash flow. It's still money moving.
Which, by definition, would be a net no impact, correct? Yeah. 1,000 in, 1,000 out. There's no impact to cash flow, correct?
But it's
right. There's no impact to cash flow. That's not what the question is. The question is it impacting cash flow by having $1,000 in and $1,000 out? Does it impact cash flow? Impact.
A net
Does it impact cash flow?
A net zero. If you're going to ask a question, you got to let me answer it. A net zero cash flow does not necessarily impact cash flow unless that net zero creates a negative cash flow later someplace down the line.
How would it do that?
Wait.
It would never do that.
Well, yes. A net zero cash flow just your example where they came down to 4%. Okay. Over long term with the BCA. Your example. If your net zero cash flow eventually creates a negative cash flow because that net zero needed to be allocated someplace else and didn't happen. So the $1,000 that you moved needed to be allocated someplace else, but that didn't happen, which is what happens with the bad actors and the self-proclaimed people that read the book. Okay. If it creates that negative cash flow later on, then yeah, it is a problem. I'm not saying your clients have that. Well, yes, it is.
Listen, oh my God. No, because what that is an issue in the future and you would transfer money to cover it, right? That's different cash flow. because cash flow then out would be negative, right? That's what's correcting that, is that you had more to spend, negative cash flow went out. You don't have any money coming in. That's the problem. So again, you're trying to compare. You're trying to say oranges or apples, and that's not what the case is, right? Transferring, if you have $1,000 of money in your cash, right? You have $10,000 come in, right? You're 10% supposed to go to profit, 10% supposed to go to taxes, 25% supposed to go to your owner's pay, and the rest operating expenses. The net of that is zero, because you had 10,000. You allocate to the 4 accounts, right? Those are all zero, right? Cash flow for that situation is done. Okay, that transaction is cash flow for that is done. It's a net impact of zero. Okay, there's nothing, Katie,
Dave,
in that transaction of those 4 transfers. The net impact to your cash flow is zero. Now, in 3 months, hold on. In 3 months, if you are now overspending your operating expense, that's a negative cash flow, because now your cash out is more than your cash in. That's not the problem of the 3-month transfer prior. That's not it. The problem to that is because now you didn't adjust, you didn't understand, or you didn't make adjustments, or you didn't have a drip account because now you're in a slow month, whatever it ends up being.
Which is where I was getting to.
Okay, so no, a transfer out from 3 months ago that's net impact does not impact the future. Like, that's a separate instance. You can't say they're the same, or you could say, you know what, that thing that happened 12 years ago, that's why you're negative now. Like, that's not true. It's because they're not monitoring it on a regular basis. It has nothing to do with what happened 3 months ago.
Cause and effect, Dave.
There is no cause and effect when it comes to one transfer out and into the other ones. Sorry, I'm not. You're just. It's not gonna. It doesn't happen.
You know, and the thing is, you're going from your best case lens from certified people that know what they're talking about. And I have agreed with you that those people do know what they're talking about. I am talking about people that don't know what they're talking about, that don't understand it.
Okay, but again, it still doesn't matter. Like,
those are the cases that we're looking at that cause negatives, because cause and effect is a real thing, and it's a real thing for everything.
Right. So here's the thing. And let's address this first. So my understanding is that the money starts with you, ends with you, and no customer, lender, or outside party is involved. That's not cash flow. It's just an internal transfer. It doesn't create revenue, profit, or real cash flow. Is that wrong? No, that's completely right. If it's an internal transfer, it does not create revenue, it does not create profit, and it's not creating any cash flow for the business. It's an internal transfer.
It's not
right. It doesn't create. It's not cash in and it's not cash out. It's only an internal transfer, which is why on a cash flow statement, there's no internal transfer account. Right. It's financing. It's operating activities, financing activities, and then investing activities. That's a cash flow statement. The 3 sections. Right. There's no money between the accounts, right? Because it's not actually cash flow activity. It's an internal transfer.
Prove where the money went. If you have 5,000 in and you're moving money within a internal account.
What do you mean prove where the money went?
Yeah, if you have 5,000 in your cash flow, okay, and you move money to other accounts.
5,000? What do you mean 5,000 in my cash flow?
Okay.
So you're saying I have $5,000 in my income balance?
Yep, $5,000 worth of revenue.
5,000 in my income balance, right? It's my allocation. It's Friday. I got $5,000 in there, right? So I'm going to take 10%. I'm going to move it to my profit account. So I'm going to put $500 in my profit account. You're going to see on my bank statements a transfer out from income and a transfer in to my profit account. No cash flow was created. It's an internal transfer.
I didn't say it was created. It's still money moving. That money moving, not cash flow specifically, but the money moving is something underwriters look at, period.
Okay, and they're going to see the out and the in. There's going to be no net.
Understood. It still doesn't look like there's not a risk. And most underwriters are going to look at that and flag it. They're going to ask questions. Dave, I'm not saying they're not going to ask questions. They're going to ask questions. They're going to want to know what's going on. They're going to want to know what your system is. You're going to have to answer questions, period. And sometimes those answers are completely.
And here's the thing: if they're completely oblivious, right? Because they should have gotten all the bank accounts right, for the business when they go
Should
to
have,
get approved,
but
right?
not every owner does it.
Okay, and then they're going to say, hey, what's this transfer out? And the owner's going, oh, here's my profit account. And they're going to give the profit, statement, and it's all going to be there. It's not going to be a red flag, right? Maybe it's a flag for questioning. Maybe it's a flag for questioning, but it's not a red flag for approval when they have all the information.
The fact that they're questioning is the flag. It's like throwing a yellow flag on the field, man. It's like throwing a yellow flag on the field.
Okay. It's not a red flag. So let's just say that, right? It's a yellow flag, right? They have to ask for more clarification if they don't have the information. Because
now,
if they were a good business owner, right, and they gave them all their bank accounts, right, the 5 bank accounts, the underwriter, if they were doing their due diligence, right, would say, okay, here's the income account, money's out, oh, wait, it's in here, perfect. And they can transfer it because all the accounts are going to say what number it is.
If the business owner does provide the accounting for all of the accounts. 9 times out of 10, the way they're asked for it is their operating account. That's the way they're asked
and then right, they're going to ask for it. And then when they're going through underwriting, the underwriter is going to, hey, where's this money coming in from, right? Where's the money coming into the operating, correct?
The underwriter is not required to ask those questions.
Okay, but if they wanted to, actually get clarification, right? Right. And if they only looked at their operating account, perfect. That's how I want them to look at. Because in the operating account, right, the money getting transferred in there is how much is based on their average, their current allocation going into that account. Based on profit first, which should be done based off of a calculation and assessment, not just an arbitrary number. Now, if somebody picks an arbitrary number, that's not again the profit first professional or the profit first system. That's a person not understanding how to implement it.
But those are the people that I have.
So you can't say, again, if you want to go back to this, you can't say profit first is the problem. Which is what you've done in all your reports. You did. No, you said in all your reports, profit first is the problem because you just pick an arbitrary number and use it. I could go back to the report and pull it up if you want me to. You said that.
Usage, Dave, the usage.
You said profit first is a problem, right? Because you arbitrarily pick a number and then use it. That's what you put in the report. I debunked that in my video. That
is the majority of the cases that have been in the case studies, is the cases where people are not using it properly. And that was my point. When people are not using it properly, it is a problem.
When people don't use condoms properly, you end up with babies. What's the problem? Like, is the condom the problem, or is it the people not using it? Like, I mean, like, you're trying to blame me, or you're trying to blame profit first as the problem because people are misusing it. That was your exact report. That's why you're writing these reports, right? You're writing these reports because you don't want people to follow profit first, right?
No,
that's what you said.
No,
the 16 page or the 51 page. I got more content I can go out and create, right? Are there because you don't want people to follow profit first because you think that it's going to then cause them to not be approved for your loans and your.
No, I don't want people to follow it arbitrarily without the proper training or the proper professional.
That's not how it's written. So there's a key how it's written, right? I've always said that there's certain situations, and there's certain situations that they fit into. One, we talked about like your gentleman who's purchasing a mall. Great. It makes sense in those specific situations. But the way you wrote these publications, you wrote them from the perspective of profit first is horrible for you if you ever want to get funded for a loan. That's how it was written. You didn't preface it by saying, hey, profit first works when you do it correctly, right? You didn't say any of that. You said the system is horrible. You should not follow it if you want to get approved for a loan. That's how you wrote it.
Read the second one.
I will read the second one. Because you're even right. Here, it's the same way.
The first one was definitely written from a funder's standpoint. You're absolutely right. I admitted to that in your
headline here of the second one is a comprehensive analysis of the structural, operational, financial, and regulatory risks inherent in the profit first system. So you're saying with your subheadline that it's the system that's the problem, not the implementation of the system is the problem.
And if you
don't tell me you didn't write it from the perspective that it's not the system the problem, it's the implementation.
I wrote an operational perspective, the second one. Now,
this is the second one. The second one, the profit first fallout, is the risk inherent, the regulatory risk inherent in the profit first system. You didn't say, hey, it's a comprehensive analysis of the structural, operational, financial, and regulatory risks inherent in the implementation of the profit first system. You said of the profit first system. Okay, that's your subhead. That's the headline. That's what you want people to get hooked into, is you want them to think that the system's the problem, not the implementation of the system. Okay,
yes,
so yeah, you're right. I am going to read all this, and we're going to come back, and we're going to actually, here's what we're going to do. You got my link. It's 2 hours, and I got to go because my son's got a hockey game. But what we're going to do when we come back, we're actually going to walk through this whole 51 page. That'll be the next episode that we walk through and talk through this. Whatever it ends up being, 58 it says on this page, but there could be an extra blank page or something in there. But
I think so.
Because again, we can. It's not the actual cash management. The cash management actually makes a business owner stronger, right? By having reserves, by having separate accounts set up that money is sitting in that has a purpose. That makes you stronger as a business, not makes you weaker. Okay, so let's get away from that. Okay, having reserves in your business makes you stronger. That I've learned from $150 million organizations, $15 million organizations that I've worked for. You have to have reserves, or you're running the risk of having to go into a high interest, high cost type of loan. So we'll end with that. But we'll also say here, one last thing from James. So you advise as a broker that you could suggest that they provide all the accounts used.
Yes.
Right. So what you're suggesting.
Yes, you can
right.
send it.
Right. What you're advising is that instead of just, and what I've heard from you, and I think what James is kind of getting to here is, instead of just saying, hey, give me your operational account, you should be asking for all bank accounts of the business.
Yeah, right. My personal way of doing it is you need the last 3 months of statements, because that's what our system requires, is 3 months. You need the last 3 months of statements for any bank account you operate with.
Perfect. And so if they see, right, but they should see the money in, money out. There's no red flag because they see it. They see what's being spent in the profit account. They see, and technically what should happen for 3 months is that in the profit account, in the tax account, you're only going to see that those balances are increasing because you're not paying for anything. Like profit distributions only happen every quarter. Tax distributions happen every quarter.
They're still going to ask questions about why they're doing it, what they're using, all of that stuff. They're still going to ask questions.
And that's right, but that's not going to be red flag questions. That's not, you're not going to get approved questions because you actually have. Okay, so, but in all your other documentation, you called it a red flag, but now you've changed it to yellow.
There are other red flags. And you know what? I can change my mind based on our conversation.
Good. No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying now we've gone from red flag to yellow flags, right?
The conversation has been educational. I'm not denying that. I can change my mind based on the information that has been given today. Just like you can change your mind based on the information given today from me. And it's cool.
Well, that's what I said. Like the BCAs, we haven't even gotten the MCAs, which are even worse, I think. But the BCAs, there's specific situations that BCAs can be used for. And we talked about it, right?
Yeah.
Like if there's an actual ROI, but you also have to, if you work with a good broker like Katie, right, who is going to break down, the fact that hey, this makes sense maybe at high level, gross profit level, but if you have a lot of overhead costs that also associate with this, you have to look at it the whole picture, which I would say you're probably a minority in that situation. I would be willing to bet a significant portion that you're probably the minority in that scenario.
And you may be right on that. I do know other people within the industry that do the exact same thing, but like minds, attract like minds.
Right.
So, I don't tend to associate with the bad actors because they're the bad actors, and I don't want my reputation to do that. I mean, just straight up. Just like you wouldn't associate with bad actors within your industry because you don't want your reputation screwed up.
Right. And that's where I'm really thinking, the fact is some of the scenarios that you talked about, it's probably because, and I guess I would be on your end, the examples that you've gone in this report, if you say that there's people that have implemented, if they actually worked with a Profit First professional, because I know for a fact, if anybody went through the Profit First training certification, that they would not just arbitrarily pick a number out of thin air and say, this is what we're going to do for you, right?
And I didn't say that they were working with a professional. I said they're trying to implement it. Now, here's the thing. You're certified. I'm certified. I'm a certified independent broker. Okay? The actual regulations through federal government, there are bills in play right now trying to fix it. but there are actual regulations that are saying we all need to get certified. They haven't been passed yet.
Right.
Okay.
So no, I'll give you that. And also, like, I think the idea there is that, right, it's going to limit the interest. Like, it is interest, right? Like, if you charge somebody 1.5 on a factor, whether it's 100,000, 50,000, like, they don't, like, people don't understand what that means. And the fact that the repayment is short term means the APR on that is huge, right? Because, just because you get, 75,000, and if somebody took 50,000 out from the bank, they would pay, right, 30,000 back, right, or 20,000 back over a 5-year term. That's a completely different issue, because the APR is a lot less than requiring somebody to pay you back $75,000 today for a $50,000 loan in the next 12 months. So that's why it's called an annual percentage rate. It's how much are you charged interest every single year, right?
It also depends on how long the term is. I mean, you can go anywhere between 4 to 24 months.
Okay, I understand that, but like, even still, like, a 1.5 factoring, right? Over even still a 2-year, even still a 2-year term is still 25% APR.
Well, a 1.5 isn't going to get a 2-year term, because that is the
short term. Okay,
that's the bottom.
Right. So there you go. So somebody who's in that 1.4, 1.5 is probably going to have a 3 to probably 12-month repayment term, right? For most of those. And we'll end with this, right?
They're probably 4 to 8.
Okay, so at 4 months, right? So they're paying back a 50%. That's 150% APR at 4 months. If they were to pay that back in 4 months, that's 150% APR for that money. Okay, if they paid back in 8 months, that'd be something like 75% APR. That's still ridiculous money that they're paying for the cost of money.
And I never said it wasn't expensive.
Right. And that's all I'm trying to say, like, is that it's a crazy interest rate that people don't understand. That most people don't understand it. They just say they're in a desperate need.
Comes down to, just like in your industry, comes down to the explanation from the professional they're talking with. If that explanation is clear and concise, just like you and I tend to give to our clients, customers, whatever you want to call them, okay, then they understand that. If it's not clear and concise because they've got a bad actor, then you're absolutely right. They don't understand it and they get themselves into issues.
Or they end up, they talk to somebody that's maybe not a bad actor, but they don't give them the full picture. Like, that's the other thing.
That would still qualify in my industry as a bad actor if you're not going to give them the full picture.
I mean, if they say, look, hey, it's going to cost you this much, and they break it down, that's the minimum required, right? Hey, here's your options, here's the repayment term, here's how much of your interest, right? That's why they created that whole truth in lending paperwork that they have to give to people now, is that people have to sign off on it, right?
Well,
most times,
that's just it. The broker isn't the only person responsible.
But see, most times you guys don't even have a truth in lending document that people have to sign. I've seen some contracts that they don't even break it down. It's so hard. Like, they don't even break down an interest or a cost of funds. They just say, hey, here's how much you're paying back. You know what I mean? And there's no truth in lending opportunity, which is technically what this is.
Yeah, that's the
lender. No, I get that. But that's also the industry, right? The lender of that is the industry, right? Well, so the industry around these would be.
That's the minority of the lenders. We have 20 plus lenders through our system that compete for people's contracts, and they're very.
And I would be like, if you could actually find out of those 20, how many actually provide a truth in lending document as part of, right? So then on there they talk about interest then, right? In the truth in lending.
In the truth of lending, they talk about the straight payback, the cost of funds, and they actually break it down into an annuitized schedule if you need to. They break it down.
If you could, I don't even know if you can, but maybe you can black out or gray out. I'd love to actually review how it's broken down.
I don't
actually. If you could gray out a name or anything.
I don't actually get those contracts, but I can talk to a couple of my customers that might be interested in letting you borrow.
Yeah, because I'd be interested to see how they actually break it down. You know what I mean? Like, the ones that I've seen from clients that have gotten them in the past that, before they actually talk to me, none of them have the truth in lending, because we're trying to figure it out. Hey, what's the interest, or what's the repayment, or what's the early payment penalty, or what's the discount if you pay early? And a lot of those don't have it.
And it is very much so transparent. There's no 9-point print, because our lenders are reputable and they do require that, because it is an industry standard that they have to pay. They show that it is the industry regulations. The truth in lending is a very real freaking law. FTC and then get upset about
that. But truth in lending, right, is when you're doing loans, which
Well,
it'd be interesting to see it because the truth of lending actually breaks down. Hey, here's how much you're financing. Here's how much the interest that you're charged for that financing. Here's how many payments you have to make, and so it would be interesting to see how that compares.
If one of my clients would be willing to share that, I'd be happy to do that. I would have to sit down it's going to take me a couple of days. I'd have to sit down and black things out and stuff like that.
Well, we got some time. I think we're booked out for the next couple of weeks, but
I think you're booked out to the end of December, my friend.
Maybe, yeah, we might, or with other things that are going on. So what I would say is just definitely, let's book another time. I would give me a time to kind of go through and kind of look at the report, right? This other one that you kind of wrote. So
let's see if we can't start the new year off this way. Have another conversation and get more truth out there, man. Let's do that.
Yeah, I think I was at the 2nd, so for sure.
Cool. A couple days before your birthday, rock on.
Love it. Yeah, if you just use the link, and then you can book it, we'll be good there.
Cool. I still have your link.
All right. If you've waited this far, we love you. Thank you for watching. Comment down below if you have questions or anything like that. Comment down below. If you've got a piece of this information that was kind of impactful to you, helpful to you, feel free to share it. Feel free to like the video, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Katie, thanks for joining me. James, thanks for the James / Warren, thanks for the interaction. And then for all those, we look forward to seeing you every single week. We're here live 8:15 in the morning. This is one of our longer ones, but we look forward to seeing you all in the next one. Hope you guys have a wonderful and fantastic weekend. Be safe out there, and hope you had a great and amazing Thanksgiving. Have a good one, everybody.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas, everybody, too, if we don't see you. Well, you won't. I'll probably talk to them before then. So, all right, everybody. We'll see you in the next one.